Right, good evening. So here we are, Facebook Live, and from the music, you can hopefully tell that our beer for tonight is, let's get it, Rhythm Stick. Of course, inspired by the great late Ian Dury. Of course, we've already had Ricky Dickey, then we had to have Rhythm Stick. And it's surprising the number of times we've been in the pub drinking Rhythm Stick and this comes on the jukebox. It's amazing. So I'll turn that down, we just have it in the background. Facebook sometimes doesn't like it when you have the music in there, but anyway, so beer for this week, Rhythm Stick, beer number 6, 4.8% amber ale. So let's get on with it. I've just got a nice condition to it, so you might have to be nice and careful with pouring this. It is quite lively, so if you have got the bottles, what I've done with this one is just put it in the fridge for half an hour just to calm it down a little bit, and then just pour nice and slowly. So have a bit of patience with it. Okay, so Rhythm Stick. It's what we call a sort of a premium bitter. Okay, so it's one of our most popular beers when we've got the micropub open and bottles fly out, polypins fly out. We've got plenty of each of those for this weekend, because it's Bank Holiday weekend coming up. So there we have it. Nice amber ale, you can see there, nice amber ale. So slightly darker than Dickey, and obviously a bit stronger, a little bit richer. But again, what we think is a nice balanced beer with that nice balance of both bitterness and sweetness as well. So, nice smell first of all. Really satisfying beer. Lots of body to it. There's a nice biscuity, caramelly type flavours to it. Now, it's a combination of the hops and the malts that gives that flavour that we get in the beer there. So hops, first of all, we'll talk about the hops that are going there. Again, a mix of British and American hops. The bittering hops, the hops that give it the bitterness, are Pilgrim hops, that's British Pilgrim hops. And then the aroma hops are half British, half American. So it's got it's Willamette and Whitbread Goldings in there. So they give you the bitterness and the aroma beer. But what I'm going to talk about a little bit more tonight is the malt in there. But before we go on to it, there's our glass this week, Chelmsford Beer Festival, Chelmsford Summer Beer Festival, and today really reminded me of Chelmsford Summer Beer Festival. Always seems to be lovely weather, sat outside in Amsel Park, outside the marquee, getting roasted. It's a bit like the weather today. So sadly, again, not happening this year, but we'll look forward to it next year. Probably one of the largest local beer festivals, and normally about the first, second week of July. Great beer festival where normally our beers perform. This is for 2013. Now, I doubt very much we'd have had a beer there for the 2013 one. Right. So anyway, just turning it off there. So anyway, so that's our glass there, Chelmsford Beer Festival. So talk about the malt. So remember, the malt that goes into that, the grain, is the thing where you get the sugar from, which goes to the alcohol. So the grain that we use for Rhythm Stick, it is all barley. And we get malted barley. So I don't know if you remember when we were talking about malt, we talked about the malting process, that you get the barley as it's harvested, it's left warm and damp for a few days. That fools the grain into thinking it's germinating in the ground, so the grain starts to break open, so you can get into the inside of the grain, and the starch in there starts turning into sugar. Now what we do, as the first part of our brewing process, with our malt, here's our malt, that's pale malt. Okay, now we take that pale malt. Okay, so most of our beers, it's mostly pale malts, but we also, in Rhythm Stick, with the amber colour you've got there, there's a few other malts in there. So you've also got caramalt, which is one that's been roasted slightly to give a slightly darker colour to it and a little bit more flavour, and so it's caramelly flavour. The main other malt in there is called crystal malt, and that's been roasted at a little bit higher temperature, similar to a process that makes toffee. So it's all, you start getting the sugars crystallising out, so you get toffee type flavour in there. And there's another one we use in there, specialty malt called melanoidin, which we get from Germany. It gives a nice biscuity flavour to the beer. So it's a combination of those 4 malts together. Now, what we do when we make the beer, go on a brew day before our brew day, we have to warm up our liquor. Remember, liquor is what us brewers call the water you use for brewing with. You warm that up to normally 75 degrees the night before, and do any water treatment you might need to, depending on the beer that you're using. So we get in the morning with a nice hot liquor tank full of hot liquor at 75 degrees. We take our grain, and then we make a thing called a mash. So we take the big bags of grain, we mix it in with our hot liquor, and you make what's called a mash. Now, I've made one little glass, a very simple sort of mash here. You see, what you do is you stir them in together. I mean, we do normally about 120 kilos of grain, sort of 5 big bags go into our mash tun, our first vessel. Has a really good stir, and then you leave it for 70 minutes. Okay, now this one's probably been left for about 3/4 of an hour, not the full time, but just to show you how it works. And you see it's like a porridgey like consistency, and you just leave it there. And what's happening during that mash process is that the rest of the all the starch now in the grain is turned into sugar. You need the sugar because eventually that sugar is going to ferment into alcohol, and yeast can't make starch turn into alcohol. Can't feed on starch, it can only feed on sugar. So you need the sugar in there so you can turn that sugar into alcohol for the final beer. So in the mash process, the starch is turned into sugar. The enzymes in the grain break down the starch, and you get a certain number of different sugars formed in there. And you also start extracting that sugar and all the other flavours out of the grain into the liquor. Now, I don't know if you want to be able to see this brilliantly. Let's see there. So, what I've got here, I've got a very simple thing, a tea strainer. So what we then have to do, we have to get the liquid off. Now, liquid off there is now called a wort. It's no longer called liquor, it's called wort, and it's a nice sweet warm liquid. So what we do is we normally drain this off from the bottom, and I've got a little tea strainer here just to demonstrate to you how it works. And you can see it's collecting the grain, and just that liquid is coming through. So you're pumping off the grain at the end, you're pumping off the wort there with all the sugar coming out there. Okay, so there's the wort coming through. Okay, now if you smell this liquid that comes off, the grain's left behind. Okay, the grain's left behind. What we then do is we do what's called a sparge. We actually wash the grain with more hot liquor. It's a bit like a coffee filter machine. So we wash that to get as much sugar as we can out of there. And the wort we get out of it, now you can see that wort is a little bit cloudy. The tea strainer is not brilliant for doing that. But that's the wort coming out there. It's that smells, those of you who remember Ovaltine, Horlicks, yeah, it smells very much like that. And it's a lovely sweet liquid. Yeah, lovely. So it's like a warm malt drink. So that's our wort there that comes out of there. Now, fluffy food questions. I'm not sure. There's obviously a lot of sugar in there, so it will have a fair amount of calories. But at this stage, that process is vegan. It's just the grain that comes out of there. There's no animal products in there at all. But if you look, what happens with the grain here, we get that grain left over, and that grain, okay, we can't use anymore, but it's still got a use. What happens is we have to dig out the mash tun, the big vessel, dig all the grain out of it, and then we've got a local farmer who collects that grain, and that grain he used to feed his cattle. They absolutely love it. A lot of people think, oh, you can get drunk cows, but there's no alcohol in this at the moment. It's just the grain with lots of sugar, with still some sugar left, but there's remains of the grain here, called spent grain it's called. And that is what the cows love, and so everything gets used up. We don't waste anything We don't have a lot of waste products. The hops that get left over, they get used for composting, or sometimes the farmer does mix them in with the grain and feeds it to the cattle. But the cattle absolutely love that, so it's all everything being reused again. So that's a little bit about the grain and how you get that. So that's very sweet there. This taken from there. You've taken the wort, you've then had the hops. We'll talk a little bit about that in another day. And then we'll talk about fermentation. That's the one thing we haven't really talked about a lot, of the fermentation process, and of course that other magic ingredient, the yeast. And we will talk about that on another occasion as well. But this one, they still get some sweetness to time, because when I said that you get, during the mashing process, you get a variety of sugars. Now, some of those sugars you can easily ferment away into alcohol, but some of those sugars stay behind, so it gives you the sweetness in there. So you want a nice balance between most of that sugar turning to alcohol, obviously, but you sometimes want a little bit of it staying behind. It gives sometimes gives a sweetness to it. It also gives a nice body to the beer as well. Yeah, really lovely, satisfying beer. Okay, so now, of course, bank holiday weekend coming up. You should want some of this Rhythm Stick, 4.8% amber beer. Then phone up the shop tomorrow, 01277 500 121, or send us an email to sales@billericaybrewing.co.uk, and we can get some out delivered to you locally. But I say, bottles, if you want a polypin, get in quick, because those polypins do very much sell out quickly. And it's a nice bank holiday weekend. Weather looking nice at the moment, so just the time to be drinking this in your garden. So the pub might not be open at the moment, but you can still enjoy our beers. Other few things just to quickly remind you to nominate your beer hero, someone you think has really contributed a lot and helped people out. Think someone who deserves a beer. Last week we had Daniel Heaney, nominated by his neighbours because he did so much in organising the V-Day parties. So we'll have another beer hero this week. So we're getting loads of nominations. So we're not choosing the person you nominated. They're still on the list, so don't worry. We can only choose one per week. We can't give away too much beer, unfortunately. It'd be lovely to do, but we will have a different hero each week. So if they haven't been chosen yet, don't worry, because they could be next week or the week before, week after, whatever. Okay, so just leaves me to say, enjoy your beers, stay safe, stay at home and drink the beer, and I will see you again next week. Bye.